A gute Woche. We are between Pesach Sheni and Lag BaOmer, Pesach Sheni being Friday, and Lag BaOmer this coming week. Two very special days in our calendar, very significant and very powerful. We're surrounded like a sandwich between the Kedusha of the two. I want to continue our history series on Telz and Lubavitch. In the last segment, we spoke about Telz as it came to America, and we'll pick up there. Telz started in Cleveland, Ohio, in the 1940s by a son-in-law and another individual who, Rabbi Katz and Rabbi Bloch's, I think, grandson, who started the yeshiva there. In the 50s and 60s, Rabbi Mordechai Gifter came to the yeshiva and was a mainstay in the yeshiva. In fact, my father, soll sein gesund, may be well, received his visa to come to America because of the yeshiva in Telz. Rabbi Zalman Schneerson, Frierdiker Rebbe's cousin, had a good relationship with the Litvische world and the Rabbanim, because many of them received help from him when he was in Paris. He was a tremendous Askin and a Talmud Chochem and a Chassid, but he helped everyone, not just Chassidim and Lubavitch Chassidim. And because of that, he was able to call upon them when he needed help as well. And my father benefited from that relationship. So in 1958, he finally, after 6 months, he was able to get the visa and he came to America. He came to the Rebbe, and then he went to Cleveland to thank the yeshiva and to thank the administration for issuing him the visa to come to America. When he came there, he met Rabbi Gifter. It seems like he was in charge of that program, in addition to being one of the Magidi Shiurim and Rosh Yeshivas. And Rabbi Gifter said to him, I see you're a Lubavitch here. So he said to him, Rabbi Gifter was he had a very sharp tongue. He said, Fardem hab ich gedacht schicken, a visa zos kommen da, to Lubavitch, mir geben, for this I needed to give you a visa to be a Lubavitcher, to come here. Mir geben visas zu die Bocherim, was willen kommen da lernen. We give visas to those that want to come learn our yeshiva in Telz. My father said he's not able to, that's what he wanted, but he's not able to because of various reasons. And he thanked him profusely, but he detected in Rabbi Gifter's words kind of, a Lubavitch, you should go to Lubavitch. What do you need Telz for? This was in 1958. Okay? Now we know the Shapiro family, Rabbi Lipa Shapiro and his children, his wife and children, Rabbi Leibel Shapiro, Rabbi Shalom Ber Shapiro, the other Shapiro brothers, all Talmidei Chachamim and personalities in their own right today, Rabbanim, Shluchim. Rabbi Shapiro, the father, Rabbi Lipa Shapiro, had a close relationship, I was told, with Rabbi Gifter. And once, Rabbi Gifter called him over and he said to him, Gate zok the Lubavitcher Rebbe, when you have a chance, kind of go and share this with the Rebbe. As a Gevena Bocha, there was a student who I heard spoke against the Rebbe. I called him into the lunchroom privately, And I asked him, hast du geredet gegen the Lubavitch Rebbe? Did you speak against the Lubavitch Rebbe? And the Bocher said, yes. Rabbi Gifter said, pack your bags, take the first Greyhound bus to New York, go to the Rebbe, take your shoes off, and ask Mechila, ask for forgiveness for what you did. And when I hear that you did that, I'll take you back to the yeshiva. And he told Rabbi Lipa Shapiro to share this with the Rebbe. The next time Rabbi Lipa Shapiro was in New York for Yud Shvat, he had Yechidus, and he told the Rebbe, I have a message from Rabbi Gifter for you. So he told the Rebbe what Rabbi Gifter said. The Rebbe sat back in his chair. Usually when at Yechidus and at Fabrengens, the Rebbe sat the front part of the chair. He didn't lean back. So he said he leaned back for a moment and a broad smile was on his face, and he said, yes, das hat abgegangen, Helm vehester auf Chassidus, something like that. Now, a great concealment upon Chassidus has been removed. No interpretation is needed. That's what was said, meaning that Rabbi Gifter tells the Litvische Yeshiva recognized kind of, the Derech HaBaal Shem Tov, the way the Baal Shem Tov and our Rabbeim and the Rebbe and Lubavitch and everything else. Another person who was very close to Rabbi Gifter, like I told you several times during these last few weeks, was Rabbi Chaim Gutnick of Australia, who learned in Telz in Europe and whose older brother, in a sense, was Rabbi Gifter, who took him under his wings and he taught him while in Telz. And Rabbi Gutnick was kind of also a shliach, an emissary, a broker, whatever you want to call it, with messages from Rabbi Gifter to the Rebbe. And Rabbi Gifter in the 1960s had certain complaints on Lubavitch, why don't they join the Moyotzes Gedolei HaTorah, and why is Yutas Kislev considered Chag HaChagim, and holiday of holidays, as though it's the greatest holiday, and without it there's no other holidays, how could you say that, and such arguments and positions and questions. And Rabbi Gutnick presented them to the Rebbe, I believe in 1963 or 64, when he had his first Yechidus with the Rebbe, his first private audience. And the Rebbe answered him. And the Rebbe told him, various things to reply to and bring back to Rabbi Gifter. There were several students in the 1960s that today are Lubavitchers that learned in Telz. Rabbi Avram Glick of Australia, Rabbi Mordechai Moti Berger of Canada, or Ontario, all of Sholem, Rabbi Baruch Rubenstein, and Rabbi Matis Cantor, today of Crown Heights, and several others who learned over the years, I'm talking now about late 50s and 60s, in Telz of Cleveland. Telz had a policy that Bochum don't wear beards. Only the Rosh Hashivas wear beards. Magid Shiurim, the ones giving the lectures, the rabbis, the scholars, but the average student doesn't wear a beard. And they didn't kind of allow you to have a beard. Well, one of these students that I mentioned, he had a beard, and when he came to the yeshiva, and he was sent to the yeshiva to Telz by the Rebbe, he wanted to go to Lubavitch yeshiva, and for whatever reason, the Rebbe told him and instructed him twice to go to Telz. In fact, in 1963, I think January 1 of 63, there was a fire in one of the dormitories in Telz, and the Rebbe had told him to go to Telz, so he wanted to come to the yeshiva, and they told him they don't have place in the dormitory. So he told the Rebbe, that there's no place, and he'd like to go to the Lubavitch yeshiva. And the Rebbe told him basically to stay where he was until then, which was in the yeshiva Chafetz Chaim of Baltimore, and then wait and go the next month after they do open up enrollment and registration, because they rebuilt the dormitory. Go to Telz. So it's clear that the Rebbe is pushing him and encouraging him to go to Telz during that time. Anyway, he got to Telz, and he got there with a beard, and he was I don't know if I want to use the word persecuted, but he was really bullied by the Bochurim, and not by the Hanhola. I asked him, not by the administration, but by the Bochurim. They gave him the Telzer students. They really gave him a hard time, and they bullied him and they badgered him and they made fun of him, and it was really not nice at all. So he wrote to the Rebbe. He was in a quandary. Maybe he should take off the beard because it's against the policy of the yeshiva. And the Rebbe answered him with a few short words. Certainly, you should not take off your beard. That was the Rebbe's words. And of course, he didn't take off his beard. And he told me that he was in the yeshiva for 13 months from September of 64. And he told me the yeshiva was a very good yeshiva. He was there 13 months and he learned very well, and he really lauded the yeshiva. That's after the fact that he was badgered by the students. But as far as the learning and the rabbis and the Rosh Yeshiva, he had a good relationship with them. We see that there was, so what I'm showing you is there was like a mixed kind of approach Telz and Lubavitch had. Telz had to Lubavitch. My preliminary discovery and findings is that Rabbi Gifter, by and large, was accepting of Lubavitch until the late 70s and early 80s, when Rabbi Shach of Bnei Brak became, by the Litvische world, the Gadol Ador, and he had these accusations of Lubavitch and the Rebbe, and everyone knows it was a big feud. And at that time, Rabbi Gifter became an opponent, and very vocal. I mean, he was always a very vocal person, very sharp, very bright. He spoke very well, and he was considered in the Litvische world a Rosh Yeshiva that, born in America, went to Europe, received his education from the big Rosh Yeshivas of Europe, came back to America and became the Rosh Yeshiva who he was. He, with several others of such nature, were kind of the new generation of Rosh Yeshivas, because the others, the old generation of Europe, passed on. He positioned himself as being a leading supporter of the Rosh Yeshiva, Panovich and Bnei Brak, and that meant to oppose Lubavitch and the Rebbe. However, I'm not convinced that that was his real self. People are complex and complicated, and to know what one really believes and really who one is a difficult thing. In Yirtz Hashem, in the next clip, again on Telz and Lubavitch, we'll share a few other stories and try to put this all together to walk away with a clear perspective. Have a great week. Afreich Lag Boimer, and Kedai Reb Shimon, Lismei Cholov. We can rely on Reb Shimon to bring the Geula to end this terrible plague, and we shall have Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Korav Mamish. Amen v'Amen.